Welcome everyone to Red Card Banter TV, where we do the post-match reaction to Tottenham 0, Bournemouth 1. Tottenham were stunned, and I must say, when I looked at the lineups, I had a feeling that it wasn't going to go too well. Of course, that's in hindsight, everyone's going to think that, but the lineup that I had put out in my pre-match analysis kind of it was with that in mind. I wanted to play Bergvall in the 10 because I thought we would have needed someone to progress the play once they hit us with those fast vertical transitions, someone to pick it up and kind of move it across, which is kind of like what you can see here. We had a little bit more possession. I think in the games where we have possession, we cannot be playing Palhinha, Bentancur, and Sarr. And I had a feeling that we would somewhat have a little bit more ball possession because well, to be fair, I thought it would be equal levels of possession because, again, both teams I figured would go at it. Like I said, Bournemouth are a very good side, and they're also a very fast attacking side. You know, 1, 2, 3, bam, they're in your third, and they're getting a shot off, going off that XG, and we can take a look at here that their expected goals was so high. That's where we can kind of see like that their XG. Optimization is so good. And if we're looking at the stuff here, this ball possession that we're looking at, I think that's why you need that's why you need Bergvall in that 10 position. And obviously that's why we signed Xavi Simmons. I think this game is crying out for Xavi Simmons, and it's just so sad that we signed such a superstar 10 who could have easily opened this game up because there was nobody to hold up that ball. There was absolutely nobody to hold up that ball. But well, I guess essentially what's going to happen is we can just take a look through the various different phases of play or phases of the game and the different phases of the team and figure out what went wrong. But essentially, in summary, what happened was we started strong, started well, broke through their defensive lines, and then Sarr had a great great pass into the box, took it and put a nice cross in, hit the goalkeeper, but it wasn't anything of danger. But it looked bright, right? It looked very, very promising. And which is kind of sad because when you look at the end result, we only had one shot on target while they had 6. That is just, again, stunned. I was stunned. Tottenham were stunned. I think Frank was stunned. Yeah, I don't know. It was quite unfortunate, but anyway, let's kind of go through what basically happened in Spurs' tactics here. I think essentially, like, the problem was Bournemouth came with a game plan, and they came with the same game plan that we had against City, which is press high, press heavy, and just congest that midfield. Now, the thing is, when we played against City, Sarr, Bentancur, and Palhinha, we played off of a counter press, win the ball high, and then go for the XG optimization in the right areas, right? And then long balls with Sarr flicking it over and all that good stuff. But here, when you're playing against Bournemouth, who love to keep the ball on the floor, who love to pass between the lines, who love to go up and down as quickly as possible, and also they are more than likely to share the similar amounts of possession. Obviously, in this case, we had 61, they had 39. But basically, we just literally had so much possession in our own box, so that possession doesn't really matter. We had 0 touches nearly in the Bournemouth box, or not 0, but very minimal compared to how much we had in our own defense. I mean, it was just horrible. Our midfield, again, no creativity, no number 10, and having no creativity besides Kudus. And here's basically what happened. Okay. Bentancur and Palhinha are really good at winning the ball and laying it off, right? Bentancur every now and then can hit that nice little pass that splits the lines or stuff like that, but it's very rare. So now you had Bentancur and Palhinha doing these side passes, and it's just not going to work against a team that loves to press so high. And this is the third various different tactical system that we'd seen that Frank go up against, which I will come to later at the end, why that's actually an advantage for us. But there was no key passes, and having no key passes between your midfield is just horrible. And it's Sarr can run, right? And he was chasing it down, but the thing is, he was chasing ghosts. They were ready for that. They were ready to pass quickly, pass fast, because again, once we had the ball and we couldn't progress the play, they were able to sit on us so high that they just nullified us completely. Now, if we had Xavi Simmons, James Madison, or Decky in that middle, now suddenly, like that's the talisman, right? Like that's the lockpicker. So you give them the ball, they'll progress the play. Now Bournemouth are forced to sit on their back heel, but they were able to sit up so high on us, and it just did not go well for us, unfortunately. And I think fundamentally that's the issue with that midfield. There's just no progression there, which is why I was hoping and I predicted that Berryville would play, is because we had some level of a progressor, and that kind of was true because, well, no, that was actually very true. Not even kind of true, that was very true, because as soon as Bergville came on the pitch, we got a shot off and we actually progressed the play. And I know Sarr is doing super duper well, which is why I didn't drop him. I was like, let's drop Palhinha. Palhinha is an amazing defender, but he does not have the legs currently to go up against this high octane Bournemouth offense, which is why I think we kind of failed in that. Semenyo just ripped us apart on that right hand side. They barely went down the left hand side because Jed was just such a good defender. They attacked Porro, and they literally shifted this asymmetrical change, which again, what I said in the pre-match analysis, whatever they were going to do, which is nothing new, and it's not rocket science, it's very easy to predict. But essentially, when you have an attack that is flat and toothless, that is suddenly not able to trap a ball, and Richarlison is not able to get the ball to Kudus because of people doubling up on Kudus on that right hand side, I think it was an issue, because now you have Kudus completely doubled up, and then you have Richarlison who can't trap a ball. So if Richarlison can trap that ball, one of the defenders can easily float over, right, giving Kudus that 1v1. But they were doubling up on Kudus. So we were toothless and flat, not by Kudus' mistake, but because the defense was able to focus on him so much better, and they were already positioned on that side because that's the side they were going to counter press and attack with. So Kudus is suddenly just outnumbered, and it's not a wizard. Like, he can't just like magic the ball over the team or whatever. He needs the ball at his feet. He needs some pressure, which is why, like, against City, when he was able to operate, was because you won the ball up high and you laid it off him because so many bodies were being pushed forward. So that was a fundamental issue. And now you had Johnson on the left. Now this is the issue, right? Johnson will come up with a goal. He's an XG monster, but he cannot take on his man. Not yet. He did say he was working on it in the preseason interviews. He said one of the things he knows that he's weak in is his 1v1 ability. And so he's going to work on it. And Justin Cochran and all these guys are amazing coaches. I think by the end of the season, we're going to see a very developed Brennan Johnson because of just coaching and how training works. But right now, we need a new left winger. We needed Savio. Oh man, if we had Savio this game, Savio could have taken the ball, beaten his man, applied pressure, held the ball up there. Kudus would have had a much more alleviated kind of defense on him, so he could have impacted the play. That would have pushed up Sarr, Bentancur, and Palhinha just a little bit higher. Like, it was easy, right? Like, you either placed Odebert, which again I predicted to start on the left because I needed someone who could beat that defensive line, so that they could put some pressure and push everyone up. You either needed to put Odebert on the left, or you needed to put Berryville in the middle. We did neither. We put Johnson, who's terrible at the 1v1, and we put Sarr with no creation against a team that allowed us to have the position, and that's why we barely got a shot off. We had no big chances. We had 83% accurate passes to their 70, which is fine because they were taking very high-risk passes to make things happen, which fundamentally, when you have so many shots, your accurate passes will drop naturally. That's just the math. And they had 8 corners to our 0. Again, no creativity because we were barely in their final third. Why? Because there was no creativity. Why? Because there was no pressure on the left-hand flank. Why? Because Kudus was completely trapped out. Why? Because Richarlison could not trap it. I don't blame Richarlison for not being able to trap it. But what I do blame is the lineup, which is where Thomas Frank is at fault, I think. Apart from that, I think it would have worked. If we had Xavi Simmons, and we played Odegaard on the left, this game would have been it would have been over. I think Tottenham wins super easily, but those are the fundamental things where we still need a little bit of improvement, but I'm not worried because I think we are making the right signings, and I think Thomas Frank is starting to understand that you can't play with Brennan Johnson. Odegaard, yeah, sure, still raw. I still have a lot of faith in Batista, and I'll keep saying that until I am absolutely sure he's not. I think he's gonna be great. But if we do get Savio or Lookman or anybody, I think we'll be really, really good because it's gonna allow our people to push up, and we have such a good creator in Poro, such a good passer in Romero, that once they're up there near that halfway line, able to sit there and coast, those threaded passes are going to do super duper well. Again, and our defensive shape was a little off because we had Romero pushed up and Poro left on an island, and obviously Poro's not the best defender. He's a good defender when he has a little bit of help. He's good at stalling, but we needed someone to come in and just really bite, just have that bite to get the ball. Unfortunately, he was left on an island, and they knew that. They pushed Semenyo on him, which was much a smart idea, was a very foreseen idea. Anyone could have seen that coming. And they cooked. Semenyo left Poro in the dust and just kept affecting play. Had amazing chances. And this is where we see all this stuff, right? Look at this. Absolute destruction. All the expected goals on Bournemouth's side. All the shots on Bournemouth's side. We did nothing. And that goes back to what I was saying. Now, we just don't have a left wing solution currently. I mean, Odegaard is still raw. Tell is still getting to grips with the Premier League, I think. I don't know what's going on. I think if Frank just starts Tell consistently, we'll see something. But I do think by Monday, if we can get our hands on Lookman or Savio, I know that's a dead dream at the moment, but hopefully can get resurrected. There's talks of Morgan Rogers going to City, and then City selling Savio to us, and then Aston Villa getting Paqueta from West Ham. I don't know. There's a whole little domino effect there. But unfortunately, bottom line, no chances created from that left wing, and we got cooked because of that. We got no creativity. Now this is where Xavi Simmons comes into play, right? This is where Xavi Simmons becomes Thomas Frank's hero, our hero, because half turn, press resistant, the bravery to affect play, Thomas Frank could use him. And I don't blame Thomas Frank at all for this game. I think his options were limited. I think he thought, why remove the chemistry from a team that just went up against a world best team? He wanted to play them, and I think on a different day it could have worked. On a different day where Richarlison could trap the ball and Kudus could have had one or two chances to go 1v1, or Pelini and Bentancur won the ball up in a higher so many variables, right? We can't talk about variables because any game has variables. You can hit the woodwork and say, oh, if that goal went in, then suddenly the game has changed. But Simmons is going to come in, and he's going to help Frank. He's going to help Tottenham. And I think once Simmons is there and people understand and respect him because he's such a good player, defenders will have to float towards him. And when they do, Kudus will open up. If we get a left winger, bam, we're good to go. Even if we don't, Xavi, Kudus, enough. They're enough to set us up in an asymmetrical pattern on that right-hand side and let Poro hit the balls from deep towards that left-hand side. In that situation, Brennan Johnson will be okay because Xavi Simmons is there to take that pressure off. And I think in those situations, you can play Brennan, you can play Odegaard, you can play Tell without fear. So do we need a left winger? Yes. For the Champions League level to be an elite team to where they have to respect the offense so that the midfield can also have freedom, because fundamentally what happened around, they didn't respect our offense enough. And they nullified our midfield so far that our midfield wasn't effective. That's the basic takeaway. But essentially, 0 shots, 1 shot all game, no corners. It just exposed our flaw. And it exposed that toothlessness in our attack that seemingly worked super well against Burnley and City. But again, Burnley, we did the right thing. We played Berival and Gray in that midfield, a little bit younger, a little bit progressive, able to hold on to the ball, have that possession. But you can't always just talk about Tottenham, because this man came in prepared, came in with a masterclass plan, understood our weaknesses, saw the thing that he believed we would do, and he read us like a book, and he prepped for it. Now he kicked our butts, right? Because they didn't just sit deep. They pressed. They played direct and they ruthlessly targeted our high line. Well, not high line, but our inability to get up. They made sure we sat in our own half and just ate shot after shot after shot. If it wasn't for Vicaria, it would have been 5-6. That scoreline highly was flattering because it should have been at least 4-0. This could have been a major embarrassment, especially on the day that Xavi Simmons was unveiled and sitting in the crowd watching us for the first time. But players at that level have a certain ego and a certain pride and a certain outlook on life where I think that he's going to look at this game and think, yeah, I can definitely come in there and change this game. I could have won this game for us, which I think is good. And I think having this loss is also beneficial because kind of shows Thomas Frank what's up. But I'll get to that. But essentially, Bournemouth set up in a 4-2-3-1, and they hit these amazing diagonal passes in quick succession to get behind us. Like Sinisi, what a player. Oh my God. I think he was man of the match. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Hitting those long passes, controlling that defensive line, anchoring it, marshalling it, making sure that we were kept in our defensive half. He deserved it. He deserved the man of the match, and he was clearly a cut above the rest. And then we go, their new striker was not bad at all. Allison, he was fine. He had great runs, 6 touches. He easily could have had a hat trick. Obviously, in the first few shots, it was highly deflected shot. It was going wide. He snatched 2 shots. That's fine. I think as a striker, you have to take your shots, and sometimes you just got to hit them, and sometimes it goes in. That's the whole point of XG, right? The probability of chance. And he could have feasted. Luckily, he did not. But his runs, where he split our CBs every time, well, not every time, but you get my point, were just well-timed, well-run, and considering we were sat so deep, we were pressured into sitting deep, where we're on the back foot, and then he's hitting these runs, which is, catches defenders off, and you can't accelerate, so he just gets a free yard or two, and that's enough to get a shot off. Then you had Brooks and Semenyo, wide threats, electric, crosses, free kick, hitting the bar. Semenyo just ate Porro for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they honestly were the difference makers. Like, you could genuinely just look at Semenyo's highlight reel and think, was Porro a cone? And I don't blame Porro, because that's not his thing. He's a wingback. He's an attacking monster who's so creative up there. Probably a very unique player. And defensively, he needed the help. But the problem was, Kudus and everyone was trying to stay up higher so they could push the game forward, that he couldn't help as often. And they made sure to overload that midfield, right? So Palhinha couldn't shift over to help. If Romero moved across to help, then you had Evanilson running in between those lines. You had Semenyo able to cut in and be tricky with the ball. It was just unfortunate. Again, the game could have been different if we were able to keep that pressure up from our possession and kept them on the back foot, which would have made them respect the space a little bit more. So Porro was unfortunately just left alone, and he got cooked. Fundamentally, there's nothing else to say. But essentially, Bournemouth all played well. They essentially played like us against City against us. Adams and Scott were just dominant. They headed the duels. Travanier found his pockets. We couldn't win a second ball to save our life, and they genuinely set the pace and the tone. The easiest way to tell if you're going to win a game, right? The easiest ways to tell is if your midfield can dictate the tempo. Just like Spurs did at City, we dictated that tempo. We pressed them into playing a different pace that they were not wanting to play, because that pace suited us. Bournemouth dictated our pace. They made sure everybody was covered. Everybody was man-marked. And they got us. We couldn't do a single thing because we played to their pace. And you don't need quality to dictate pace. You need good positioning, and you need good outlets, and you need a very good passing sense, right? That kind of like game sense, that IQ, to be able to know what's the pass I can make just to kick. You don't need technical quality for that. You just need good understanding of IQ, right? Of where the space is, where the players are. And these are professional players. they can hit the ball accurately, right? Well, you would think, but we were misspacing. I mean, Bentancur sloppy, sloppy. You would never see that, or you'd never think that you would see that from him. But I think I do have an idea why that happened, and I'll save that for the end. But I mean, Senesi, this guy, clearance, assist, marking Richarlison out of the game. He had 6 clearances and 4 interceptions. The man was a rock. He would step up to hit interceptions. He was blocking crosses. Like, we just couldn't find an angle out of him. But I think that's where you need someone like Xavi Simmons or Madison or Decky, who are able to just kind of push into that space and force him to come out, or to stay further back to create that little itty bitty space. The problem is when you give any two center backs in the Premier League, the ability to control the box by staying where they want to stay, where they're covering most of that area, you're not going to win. That's how low blocks work, is because everyone's positioned perfectly. How do you beat a low block? You push people out, right? How do you push people out? You hit shots. You dribble past people, forcing them to shift away from their location. Who was dribbling for us? Who was hitting long shots for us? Nobody. So they could sit perfectly in that box, in their particular locations. You're not going to win. So, I mean, they were just compact. They were direct. They were fearless. Irola had them all cooking. But this man and Big Vic, probably Van de Ven's probably the only one who played super well that game. His pace, amazing. Strength, amazing. Like, if it wasn't for Van de Ven, we would be even more pissed off than we are right now, because he is unfreaking believable. And I just can't believe that we have him, and I can't believe that we got him. Like, he was incredible. He was very, very good. Very happy with him. Big Vic out there was blocking shots. This is where Big Vic is amazing. He's an amazing goal stopper. I wish he was just training his feet so that he can play with the ball and kick the ball and distribute well, because if you could combine Kinski and Vicario, you have a world-class goalkeeper. Van de Ven is unique. Fastest player in the Premier League, able to snuff out counters, able to snuff out plays, just one bad touch and you're done. He will pick up that ball and protect it. And could have been worse, guys. Could have been a lot worse. But essentially, one of the things that we have to talk about is Thomas Frank. Just real quick. Sure, he didn't choose the best lineup. I think the lineup that I predicted might have been better. Maybe there's another lineup there that would have been ideal. I'm not saying mine is ideal. I just said my thoughts on how we should approach the Bournemouth game. That's the lineup I would have chosen. Thomas Frank faced a low block. He faced a heavy possession team, and he faced a high press team. And he faced one of the most possessionally dominant teams in PSG. I don't think we should be looking at this game thinking, oh man, like how could he mess up, or anything, or the players, how could they mess up? The problem is they're still learning. Thomas Frank is still learning. He's trying to understand people's ceilings and their floor, their weaknesses, strengths. What are the win conditions with these players? What are the fail conditions with these players? So I think like losing is a good thing. I think if you win all your games, yes, you get confidence, but that confidence could also mask certain weaknesses that might be our downfall later. And I think losing today kind of showed us that we do need a little bit more firepower in that left wing space. Or my theory is, as long as you have a creator who can progress that ball, hit the half turns, and attack those half spaces perfectly, forcing that defense back, I think we would have been okay. I think this was just a composition issue. And I think Thomas Frank understands that, because the good thing about Thomas Frank is, and the good thing about this game is, if you guys remember the Bayern game where we lost 4-0, Thomas Frank came out and said, I've understood, and I'm going to make the changes, and we went at it at PSG. I think he's going to look at this game. The international break is there. He's going to have 2 weeks to analyze everything. Now he has a good understanding of the players, a nice little break to really dig deep and dive into the analytics and tactical efficacy of everything with his coaching staff. After the international break, I think we're going to see a highly dominant Tottenham team that is going to have Xavi Simmons just magic in that midfield. And I think our strongest midfield is going to be Xavi Simmons, Sar, and Bentancur. So it's going to be very interesting to see. And I think we're going to, and one of the reasons what I was saying was I think the reason why the players were looking a little sluggish is because the amount of training that you're doing to get up to the pace, to get up to the tactic demands, it's gonna weigh on you. It's gonna hit your endurance over time naturally, and you're gonna be sluggish at some point. Once they build up their fitness to Thomas Frank's levels, I think you can coast a little bit, and now you're gonna get a little bit of rotation. And once the rotation kicks in, you'll be okay. And I think today's problem was rotation. We didn't rotate, so the same players who were lethargic were continuously lethargic. I think if you had a little bit more fresh blood in there, the ones that don't have too many minutes in their legs, like Barabal, Tell, Odobert, these guys, I think we would have had a much more brighter game. And yeah, sure, I understand why Thomas Frank chose the team that he did. But I think it is a good lesson in the fact that it's a good lesson for everybody, because if you can't rotate, you're cooked. You're going to have games like this where 8 to 9 players are just bad. And they're not bad, they're just fatigued. And that fatigue makes errors, and those errors lead to problems. Right? So I think fundamentally that's the issue here. But yeah, I mean, this guy's a beast. Semenyo, probably the best left winger in Premier League at this point. The dude creates physical, powerful, drive power, carry power, muscle defenders, acceleration, shots off, assists off, can jump. How is he in Bournemouth? How? If Tottenham can, get this guy. Over Savio, get this guy. But to be fair, I do love Savio. I think we need Savio. But I think that was the issue. And I think like we understood kind of what the issues were. Now hopefully we can fix them. And I hope we do, because we cannot be losing to teams like this. Especially not once we get players. After signing Xavi Simmons, I don't think we'll lose games like this. We just need a left winger. So let's see what the transfer window does. Probably do an episode 3 of the upcoming match week with the gang. So hopefully we'll see you guys there. Hope you guys like this analysis. And I mean, I'm not mad. There's nothing to be mad about. I think this is just objectively looking at the game. I think we're okay. I think we just need a little bit more depth and we'll be fine. Everybody is going to be doom and gloom, obviously, because it's easy to be doom and gloom. But it's Frank's third game in charge. Just if everyone stays calm, we'll be okay, because I know Frank is calm, and we'll be okay. Well, hope you guys enjoyed. Well, thanks for listening to Red Card Banter, post-match reaction for Tottenham versus Bournemouth. Had some good stuff in here. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will be out with some more content. Thank you all so much. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you soon.